Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! In the sterile confines of the hotel room, panic bloomed, intensifying with each passing moment. The absence of personal belongings, especially the vital business attire, hit Callan like a punch to the gut. It was a nightmarish scenario on the brink of the EverTech conference, a summit that had the tech industry's elite eagerly awaiting his groundbreaking software reveal. "This can't be," he whispered, his eyes scanning the empty space as if willing the missing luggage to appear. The cream-colored carpet bore witness to his growing distress as he paced, his thoughts a cacophony of frustration. The urgency of the situation was clear. The conference, a product of 6 months' meticulous planning, was only 2 days away. Yet, the airline's message, delivered with a contrite tone, dashed any hope of retrieving the suitcases before the pivotal event. Through the adjoining door, Vanessa entered, her casual attire a sharp contrast to the turmoil within. Sensing something amiss, she approached Callan, her smile turning to concern. "Is something amiss?" she asked, observing his frenzied pacing. "All of it. My presentation suits, my notes, everything." Vanessa winced, tucking a strand of her blonde hair behind her ear. "That's terrible timing. When do they think it'll arrive?" "Not until at least Wednesday. The conference starts tomorrow morning at 9. Vanessa leaned against the doorframe, studying her boyfriend's distress. Their relationship had always been comfortable, supportive. They'd been dating for almost 2 years, and this trip had seemed like the perfect opportunity to combine his business obligations with a mini vacation for her. What about buying something new? On a Sunday night in downtown Denver, everything's closed and the hotel shops won't open until after my presentation starts. Silence fell between them as the gravity of the situation settled. Then Vanessa straightened, a spark of inspiration brightening her eyes. "I might have a solution. Not ideal, but..." She hesitated, measuring her next words carefully. "We're about the same height. You could borrow some of my clothes." The suggestion hung in the air. Callan's pacing stopped abruptly. "Your clothes? I packed for business meetings too, remember? I've got that black pencil skirt and burgundy blouse. Very conservative, very professional." Callan stared at her, waiting for the punchline. "You're not serious." "Why not? It's better than showing up in jeans and a t-shirt. The conference is about your brilliant software, not your wardrobe. Besides," she added with a small smile, "you've got the legs for a pencil skirt." The comment, intended to lighten the mood, hit something unexpected inside Callan. A flicker of curiosity, quickly suppressed. "There has to be another option." But as the evening progressed, every alternative collapsed. The hotel concierge confirmed that no nearby clothing stores would open before the presentation. Colleagues already at the conference had either packed exactly enough for themselves or were significantly different in size. At midnight, exhausted and resigned, Callan sat on the edge of the hotel bed, staring at the items Vanessa had laid out. A knee-length black pencil skirt, a silk burgundy blouse with modest 3/4 sleeves, and a pair of black flats. "I can't believe I'm considering this." Vanessa sat beside him, her hand resting supportively on his knee. "It's just clothes. You're still the same brilliant mind who developed that software. That's what matters tomorrow." Morning arrived with merciless swiftness. After a fitful night's sleep, Callan stood in front of the bathroom mirror, examining the transformation with a mixture of disbelief and unexpected fascination. The burgundy blouse draped elegantly over his slim frame, and the pencil skirt, while snug, fit surprisingly well. Vanessa had helped style his medium-length brown hair, brushing it into a more feminine arrangement that softened his features. "We should do something about your stubble," Vanessa mused, rummaging through her toiletry bag. She produced a small makeup kit and gestured for him to sit on the closed toilet lid. With deft movements, she applied foundation, concealer, and the lightest touch of mascara. "Just enough to polish the look," she explained. "Nothing dramatic." When she finished, Callan barely recognized the person in the mirror. The auburn highlights in his hair, usually unnoticed, caught the bathroom light. The makeup softened his jawline, and the clothes transformed his silhouette into something elegantly professional. "I look professional," Vanessa finished for him, squeezing his shoulders reassuringly. "You look like someone who belongs at that conference table." The walk through the hotel lobby became an exercise in self-consciousness. Each step in the unfamiliar flats required concentration. Each movement in the pencil skirt a new awareness of his body. But strangely, no one gave him a second glance. Just another business professional heading to a meeting. The conference center buzzed with activity. Clutching the presentation materials salvaged from his carry-on, Callan approached the registration desk with his heart thundering against the silk blouse. "Good morning," greeted the receptionist. "Your name, please?" "Callan Mercer. I'm presenting in the innovation track at 10. The woman scanned her list, nodded, and printed a badge. "Here you are, Ms. Mercer. The presenter's lounge is down the hall to your right." Ms. Mercer. The words registered like a small electric shock, but before Callan could correct her, another attendee approached the desk, and the moment passed. The presenter's lounge offered coffee, pastries, and nervous energy as speakers reviewed notes and checked presentations. Callan found a quiet corner to review slides, trying to become invisible within the burgundy silk and black wool. "First time presenting?" The question came from a woman in her 50s, dressed in an immaculate navy suit, her silver hair cut in a precise bob. "Is it that obvious?" She laughed warmly. "Only to another veteran. I'm Margaret Chen, Biotech Track." "Callan Mercer, Innovation Track." "Ah, the Neural Interface Protocol. I read the abstract. Fascinating approach to accessibility." Margaret sipped her coffee. "The tech world needs more women tackling these problems. We think differently, see solutions others miss." The assumption slid past without correction. Something about being perceived this way felt strangely liberating, being judged first for her mind rather than appearance. When Callan's presentation time arrived, the transformation became complete. Standing at the podium, she spoke about the software with passion and precision. The audience engaged differently than in previous presentations, more attentive, less interruption, deeper questions. No one challenged her credentials or asked if someone more senior had developed the concepts. After the presentation, a circle of industry leaders gathered around, business cards extended, questions flowing. The respect was palpable and unfamiliar. "Your approach to interface design is revolutionary," commented the CTO of a major tech firm. "We'd love to discuss potential applications. Are you free for dinner tomorrow?" By late afternoon, Callan returned to the hotel room in a daze, slipping off the black flats with a mixture of relief and confusion. Vanessa looked up from her laptop, eyebrows raised in question. "How did it go?" Callan collapsed onto the bed, still wearing the burgundy blouse and black skirt. "It was different. Everyone assumed I was a woman. No one questioned my expertise. I've never had a presentation go so smoothly." Vanessa closed her laptop. So they took you more seriously? Not exactly. They took me seriously in a different way. No one tried to explain my own technology to me. No one asked where my boss was. A pause. It felt right. The words hung in the air between them, heavier than intended. Well, Vanessa finally said, your luggage is still missing. Lucky for you, I packed a teal sheath dress for tomorrow and a purple cardigan for the evening reception. That night, lying awake beside Vanessa's sleeping form, Callan confronted the unfamiliar feelings stirring beneath the surface. The day's experience had awakened something dormant, a sense of alignment that had never existed before. Each moment in those clothes had felt less like a costume and more like a revelation. The airline called the next morning. The luggage had been located, but wouldn't arrive until the following evening. The news brought an unexpected relief rather than frustration. Looks like you're stuck with my wardrobe another day, Vanessa commented, laying out the teal sheath dress. The second day proceeded much like the first, except now Callan leaned into the role with growing confidence. The teal dress complemented auburn hair, and Vanessa added a delicate silver necklace to complete the ensemble. In the conference halls, Callan became Ms. Mercer without hesitation, engaging in discussions with a newfound voice. At the evening reception, wearing Vanessa's purple cardigan over the dress, Callan found herself in conversation with industry pioneers who had previously been inaccessible. Ideas flowed freely, connections formed easily, and professional respect came without the usual hurdles. You've made quite an impression, Margaret Chen commented, appearing at Callan's elbow with 2 glasses of wine. The Neural Interface Committee can't stop talking about your presentation. Accepting the offered glass, Callan smiled. That means a lot, especially coming from you. We need more voices like yours. Too often, these spaces become echo chambers of the same perspectives. Margaret raised her glass slightly. To disrupting expectations. By the third day, wearing Vanessa's cream-colored slacks and a silk blouse, Callan moved through the conference with newfound purpose. The clothes no longer felt borrowed. They felt like an expression of something essential that had been buried for too long. When the luggage finally arrived that evening, Callan stared at the men's suits and button-down shirts with a strange disconnection, as if they belonged to someone else entirely. Vanessa noticed the hesitation. You don't have to wear those tomorrow if you don't want to. Their eyes met, understanding passing between them. I'd rather not, Callan admitted quietly. Then don't. The final day of the conference, Callan wore Vanessa's black pencil skirt again, paired with a different blouse. The decision felt significant, a choice rather than a necessity. Throughout the day, colleagues who had come to know Ms. Mercer continued their discussions, unaware of any change from the previous days. On the flight home, Vanessa rested her head on Callan's shoulder, speaking softly above the engine noise. What happens now? The question encompassed so much more than the end of the conference. I don't know exactly, Callan admitted, but I know I can't go back to pretending. Vanessa nodded against his shoulder. Then, don't. The weeks following the conference brought careful exploration. Online orders arrived in discreet packages, elegant dresses in rich jewel tones, comfortable everyday wear, shoes in the right size. Callan researched, read forums, and gradually found language for the feelings that had been present but unnamed for so long. One evening, after trying on a new emerald dress that highlighted auburn hair, Callan stood before Vanessa with trembling hands. I think I'm transgender. The words came out barely above a whisper. I think I've always been a woman inside. Vanessa took those trembling hands in her own. I think you might be right. What do you want me to call you? Genevieve. The name emerged without hesitation, as if it had been waiting all along. I'd like to be Genevieve. It's beautiful. Vanessa smiled. It suits you. Genevieve's emergence wasn't instantaneous, but deliberate. She began with small steps, growing out her auburn hair, cultivating a wardrobe that expressed her true self, learning the subtleties of makeup from Vanessa's patient tutorials. Their apartment became a safe haven where she could fully exist as herself before venturing further into the world. The first appointment with a gender therapist came 3 months after the conference. Sitting in the waiting room in a navy blue dress, Genevieve twisted her hands anxiously. What if they don't believe me? What if they say I'm not really trans because I didn't know since childhood? Vanessa covered those nervous hands with her own. They're there to help, not judge, and your story is just as valid as anyone else's. The therapist, a compassionate woman with graying hair and kind eyes, listened as Genevieve recounted her experiences, the lifelong disconnection from masculinity, the revelation at the conference, the sense of finally understanding the persistent wrongness she'd always felt. Many people don't have the vocabulary to understand their gender identity until later in life, the therapist explained. That doesn't make your experience any less authentic. Sometimes we need the right circumstances to recognize what's always been true. With therapeutic support, Genevieve began hormone therapy 6 months after the conference. The physical changes came gradually, softening skin, subtle shifts in fat distribution, emotional changes that brought both challenges and profound relief. It's like I've been seeing through fog my whole life, and now it's finally clearing, she explained to Vanessa one evening, curled together on their sofa. Work presented its own hurdles. Genevieve had returned from the conference to her remote position without immediate disclosure, but as her transition progressed, decisions loomed. After careful consideration and consultation with HR, she composed an email to her team. I want to share something important about myself, she wrote. Some of you met me as Ms. Mercer at the Evertech conference. That wasn't a mistake. I am a transgender woman, and I'm transitioning to live authentically as Genevieve. I appreciate your support as I make this change. Responses varied. Most colleagues adapted readily, some awkwardly but earnestly, a few with uncomfortable silence. The company's leadership, impressed by her conference success, provided unexpected support, updating systems, and ensuring proper protocols were followed. 1 year after the fateful luggage mishap, Genevieve stood before the mirror in her bedroom, hardly recognizing the person who had once existed. Her auburn hair now reached past her shoulders, framing a face softened by hormones and highlighted by skillfully applied makeup. The emerald dress she wore for her anniversary dinner with Vanessa accentuated curves that had gradually developed. Ready to go? Vanessa appeared in the doorway, resplendent in a black cocktail dress. Almost. Genevieve applied a final touch of lipstick. Just thinking about how much has changed in a year. Do you ever regret it? Genevieve turned from the mirror, meeting her girlfriend's gaze. Not for a moment. I regret the years I lost not knowing who I was, but never the decision to become her. The restaurant was elegant, with candlelight catching the auburn highlights in Genevieve's hair, as they celebrated not just their relationship, but her journey. Between courses, Vanessa reached across the table, taking Genevieve's hand. I'm proud of you, you know. Becoming yourself took incredible courage. Genevieve squeezed her hand. I couldn't have done it without you. Yes, you could have, Vanessa corrected, gently. You would have found your way eventually. I'm just glad I got to witness it. The legal aspects of transition followed. Name change documents filed and processed, identification updated, systems notified. Each administrative step affirmed Genevieve's identity in official record. 18 months into her transition, another conference invitation arrived. The same event that had catalyzed her awakening. This time, she would attend fully as herself, presenting not just her technological innovations, but her authentic identity. Standing at the podium in a burgundy dress that echoed the blouse she'd borrowed so long ago, Genevieve surveyed the audience with confidence that came from alignment between inner truth and outer expression. 2 years ago, I presented a preliminary version of this technology, she began. Since then, both the software and its creator have evolved considerably. Laughter rippled through the audience. Margaret Chen, now a friend and mentor, smiled encouragingly from the front row. The presentation flowed naturally, her expertise unchallenged, her identity unremarkable in its authenticity. Afterward, several young women in tech approached, thanking her for her visibility. "Seeing someone like you succeed makes me believe I can too," confided one earnest software developer. That evening, Genevieve recounted the interaction to Vanessa over the phone. "It never occurred to me that I might become a role model." "The best kind," Vanessa replied. "One who didn't set out to be an example but simply lived truthfully." 2 years into her transition, Genevieve found herself addressing challenging conversations with family. Her parents struggled initially, mourning the son they thought they knew, while learning to embrace the daughter who had always been present. Siblings adapted at varying paces, some immediately supportive, others requiring time to adjust their understanding. "I'm still the same person," she explained during a tense family dinner. "I just finally understand why I always felt so uncomfortable in my own skin." Her mother, initially the most resistant, eventually found her way to acceptance through simple observation. Seeing her child's evident happiness, the animation in her face when she spoke, the comfort in her movements that had always been absent before. "I just want you to be happy," she finally said, embracing Genevieve. "And I can see that you are." Professional recognition followed personal acceptance. Genevieve's innovative work continued garnering attention, with invitations to speak at conferences and contribute to industry publications. Rather than hiding her transgender identity, she acknowledged it matter-of-factly when relevant, becoming known not just for her technological contributions, but for her authenticity in a field often lacking diversity. 3 years after the conference that changed everything, Genevieve and Vanessa stood together on the balcony of their new apartment, watching the city lights below. Genevieve wore a simple teal dress, comfortable in both the garment and her skin. "Do you ever think about how different things might have been if the airline hadn't lost your luggage?" Vanessa asked, leaning against the railing. Genevieve considered the question, the evening breeze lifting strands of her auburn hair. "I think I would have found my way here eventually, but it might have taken much longer, and I might have suffered more in the meantime." She turned to face Vanessa fully. "That mishap gave me permission to discover something I couldn't acknowledge otherwise." "The universe works in strange ways." "Indeed it does." Genevieve took Vanessa's hand, admiring how their fingers intertwined. "Thank you for standing by me through all of this. Thank you for trusting me to see the real you." Their relationship had evolved alongside Genevieve's transition, adjusting, communicating, growing stronger through challenges that might have fractured a less committed partnership. They had discovered that love transcended gender, finding depth in authenticity that superficial conformity could never provide. In their bedroom that night, Genevieve removed her jewelry and hung the teal dress carefully in the closet filled with clothes that were entirely her own, no longer borrowed, no longer a temporary solution, but expressions of her true self. The person reflected in the mirror matched the woman she had always been inside, auburn hair framing a face now at peace with itself. Catching Vanessa watching her from the bed, Genevieve smiled. "What are you thinking about?" "Just that it's been quite a journey from that hotel room in Denver. The longest and shortest 3 years of my life," Genevieve agreed, sliding under the covers beside her. "And absolutely worth every step." They lay together in comfortable silence until Vanessa propped herself up on one elbow. "Do you ever miss anything about your life before?" Genevieve considered the question seriously. "I miss the simplicity of privilege I didn't recognize I had. Moving through the world as a man was easier in many ways I never appreciated." She paused. "But I don't miss the constant disconnection, the persistent feeling that I was playing a role rather than living my life. I don't miss the person I pretended to be." "I prefer Genevieve anyway," Vanessa said, kissing her softly. "She's much more interesting." 4 years after the luggage mishap, Genevieve stood before a full-length mirror in a private dressing room, hardly believing the woman reflected back at her. The ivory wedding dress hugged her figure, the result of years of hormone therapy and the careful work of a skilled seamstress who understood the unique needs of her body. "You look absolutely beautiful," her mother said, dabbing at tears. The journey to this moment of maternal joy had been complicated, but ultimately healing for them both. "Are you nervous?" asked her sister, adjusting the delicate veil over Genevieve's auburn hair, now flowing in loose curls past her shoulders. "Not about marrying Vanessa," Genevieve replied honestly. "Just about tripping in these heels while walking down the aisle." The wedding itself was intimate, but meaningful. A celebration not just of their love, but of the journey that had brought them to this point. When Genevieve recited her vows, her voice steady and true, she made promises not just as a wife, but as her authentic self, finally whole. "You saw me before I could see myself," she told Vanessa before their gathered loved ones. "Your love gave me courage to become who I always was." Vanessa, radiant in her own white gown, squeezed Genevieve's hands. "Loving you through your transformation taught me that authenticity is the greatest gift we can give each other. I fell in love with your spirit, and watching that spirit finally find its true expression has been the privilege of my life." As they moved into married life, Genevieve's career continued flourishing. The neural interface technology she had presented at that fateful conference evolved into applications, helping disabled users interact with technology through thought alone. Her unique perspective informed designs that others had overlooked, creating more inclusive solutions. 5 years after the conference, she found herself mentoring young transgender people entering the tech field, offering guidance she wished she'd had earlier in life. "Your journey doesn't have to look like anyone else's," she told a nervous intern who had just begun transition. "Some people know from childhood, others discover their truth later. What matters is honoring that truth once you recognize it." At home, she and Vanessa created a sanctuary of acceptance, their relationship deepening through challenges overcome and joys shared. Their apartment filled with photographs documenting Genevieve's transformation alongside their evolving relationship, visual testimony to the power of authenticity and love. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I'd just worn a borrowed suit instead of your clothes that first day?" Genevieve asked one evening as they sorted through old photographs. Vanessa considered the question, studying a picture from before transition. "I think your truth would have found another way to emerge. That moment was a catalyst, not the cause." Genevieve nodded, placing the photograph aside and picking up a more recent one. Herself, in the emerald dress that had become a favorite, auburn hair gleaming, eyes bright with happiness. You're right. Some truths can't stay buried forever. 7 years after the luggage mishap, Genevieve sat in her home office, preparing notes for an upcoming keynote address. Her transition was long complete. Her life settled into its authentic rhythm. The woman in the mirror each morning was simply herself, no longer a revelation or a conscious effort, just Genevieve living her truth. The conference invitation on her desk requested she speak about innovation and authenticity in technology, topics she had uniquely embodied through her journey. As she drafted her remarks, she reflected on the unexpected path that had led her here. The greatest innovations often come when we question assumptions, she wrote, including assumptions about ourselves. Hearing Vanessa return home, Genevieve saved her work and rose from the desk. In the living room, she embraced her wife, the comfortable familiarity of their connection a daily blessing. "How was your day?" Vanessa asked, slipping off her shoes. "Productive. I'm almost finished with my keynote." "The one about transformation and innovation?" Genevieve smiled. "The very one. I was just thinking about how a lost suitcase changed everything." "Not everything," Vanessa corrected gently. "It revealed what was already there." Later that evening, they walked together along the river near their home, Genevieve's auburn hair catching the sunset light. Her emerald dress moved gently in the breeze as they discussed future plans, everyday concerns, the ordinary miracle of their shared life. "Sometimes I almost forget," Genevieve admitted, watching a boat pass beneath the bridge. "Not my journey, but how extraordinary it once seemed. Being myself has become so natural that the alternative seems impossible now." "That's how you know you're living your truth," Vanessa replied, squeezing her hand. "When it becomes as natural as breathing." They paused on the bridge, looking out over the water, reflecting the sky's changing colors. Genevieve considered the woman she had become. Professional success, personal fulfillment, authentic relationships, all flowing from that moment of crisis turned opportunity. "I never planned to become a symbol for others," she reflected. "I just wanted to be myself." "Sometimes the most powerful example is simply living authentically," Vanessa said. "Your journey gives others permission to consider their own." As darkness fell and city lights blinked on around them, they turned toward home, two women walking hand in hand through a world that had adjusted to make space for Genevieve's truth. The burgundy blouse and black pencil skirt that had started her journey were preserved in the back of her closet, mementos of transformation, reminders that sometimes life's greatest discoveries come disguised as misfortunes. In their quiet moments together, they marveled at the path that had brought them here, how a missing suitcase had revealed a missing piece of identity, how borrowed clothes had helped Genevieve find her way home to herself. The journey had not always been easy, but standing fully in her truth, Genevieve knew with absolute certainty that it had been entirely worthwhile. The woman with auburn hair who walked confidently through the world had always existed. She had simply been waiting for the right moment to emerge, for the courage to become visible, for the chance to live fully as Genevieve.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!